Let's get started. So many of you here. Thank you so much for coming. So basically in this panel, we have two songwriters with us. Andreas Oberg, who has worked with many K-pop groups. And Jim Wolf, who is an American pop songwriter, but a lot of his songs has gone viral in Korea. So together we're going to be talking about the songwriting process, what comes first, chord progression or melody, singing, recording, and then Jim mixes and masters his own songs, so we can talk about the post-production part too. So hopefully after this panel you will all go home super educated, like, I know how pop music is written, I know what's up. So yeah. Okay, so to start this off, can you guys please, I already said your names, wow. Okay, what are the official names for your professions, and how long have you been in the music business?
My name is Andreas Oberg. I'm originally from Sweden. I used to be a professional guitar player, and then over the years I kind of changed the path and became more of a songwriter, producer. So that's what I'm doing full time these days. And I used to go to school in Sweden, like a high school for musicians, for young teenagers do music, and then I started at the Royal Music Academy in Stockholm, which is kind of similar to Berklee College of Music. So
it's a really good music school.
I went there for 4 years.
Pretty good.
And I play guitar, of course. I also play piano, bass, different synths, keys, and yeah, most instruments. Not drums though. I leave that to the real drummers.
Guys, how are you? Jim Wolf. No E on Wolf. Just telling you now, because a lot of people get confused and spell it wrong. I've been a singer-songwriter since 2010, officially. I mean, I was writing and releasing stuff before that, but that's kind of when things really started to move in the direction that it has to becoming a full-time thing. And I primarily am acoustic and vocal, but I also play keys, and keys, bass, and a lot of synthes too, but mostly singing.
Nice, okay. And so you mentioned that you went to college for music. Jim, did you go to a college for music?
I did. I actually went to a school in Connecticut, and I had a very general major, communications, and minored in music, right, very general, but I worked in radio, which is cool, and I worked at a radio station called I-98, and what?
Say again?
Sorry, okay, I thought she was talking to me. So, yeah, I worked in radio just to kind of figure out what formulas worked for songwriting and what didn't, and kind of learned a lot from that situation. So.
Right, and so since you guys went to college and you did some music there, did you feel your college education is super applicable to what you're doing now? Like, do you feel like knowing classical or jazz music theory is important in pop songwriting?
Well, I would say it's important to know when you communicate with other musicians. It's easy to be able to communicate when you know the names of the chords and the progressions and all that. But the really important thing, it comes down to you hearing it. Some people don't know theory and they're amazing at what they do. And in pop, it's also very important to find these simple, easy hooks that people can remember and sing along to. And then, of course, when you're doing more advanced chords, and like sometimes in K-pop and J-pop, you can go a little bit crazy with the chords, and then it's great to have a background in jazz or something like that. Then you have a little bit of a head start when it comes to that. But the most important thing is actually hearing the colors and the notes and what you want to project to the listener, and not always knowing the name, but it makes it easy to communicate.
Yeah, totally. I feel like ever since I became a songwriter and a producer, it's kind of like you're in a club with the others, and you guys can have this like inner circle conversation about what you're listening to without sounding overly critical about it, or and there's like little language little lingo you have back and forth.
Right. And then for the aspiring songwriters out there, including myself, do you think it's very important that you have to be able to sing and you have to be able to play an instrument like guitar or piano in order to songwrite? because I play French horn. I'm not too good at keyboard, but I am knowledgeable with the programs out there. I know you mainly compose from playing an instrument. What would you guys suggest? Do you think that you have to be musicians to be songwriters?
No, not necessarily. I think that anybody that could play has a basic knowledge of chords can be a songwriter. I really do. I think so much of it is just confidence and inspiration and just taking a risk and just being, understanding that it's okay to fail. And having that ability is just, it's a point of growth as being an artist. And also allowing yourself to just be an artist. Just saying, I'm different, it's cool, this is what I want to do, and committing to it.
Yeah, and these days there are different aspects of the composing too. Like some people are top liners that come up with melodies and hooks. And sometimes to be a top liner, you don't have to have an amazing voice. The important thing, you have great imagination. You can come up with catchphrases, titles. And of course there are track makers, there are different aspects of the music industry and writing, producing. And you can do everything yourself, or you can use other people, what you call a co-write, to collaborate with other individuals who have great talents that might complement what you know yourself. So there are many ways of getting into the music industry.
That's fantastic to hear. Okay, so now we're going to go into the composing process. So what on earth is the Kpop composing process? Like, what comes first? Chord progression? Do you always base a melody off of chord progression, or do you do the melody first and compose around that? Please share what your usual processes are.
For me, starting out, it was definitely chords, melody, then lyrics. And as time has gone on, I find that I write a lot of my songs in the shower, and the lyric will come to me first. And so I don't have my guitar or anything with me. I have to either take that key lyric concept and then run, usually dripping wet, find my guitar, and find out whatever key was most natural with my voice. Kind of.
Nice.
And sometimes I hear a guitar riff in my head. Sometimes I have it tired. Sometimes I hum something. Different ways of approaching it, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's all types of ways of approaching, I guess, songwriting. So I'm curious, how does it differ composing for yourself and sharing your own stories, Jim, versus Andreas, you compose for a bunch of other pop artists? I wonder how does the goal differ?
Well, for me, I was tied to an emotional situation. Kind of early on in music, I really couldn't do that. I got to the point where I was kind of like sabotaging my own relationships to write good heartbreak songs, more or less. But as time has gone on, I've kind of just said, it's okay, it's just a song. It's just a song, so it's been a switch that I've had to just turn on and be like, I want to write a happy song, and then I can write a happy song. So much as like picking which keys, major, minor, that kind of stuff.
And I try to bring out the best, of each artist.
Okay, so, right, moving on. So, songwriting process by yourself versus with other people. So when you are a co-writer, you specifically only write one aspect of the music. Like Jim, you were saying earlier that you usually come up with the lyrics first, but then you do everything else by yourself afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, how long is this process? And then versus, Andreas, you can tell us how long co-writing takes.
No, I love co-writing, working with different people, doing stuff together, sharing ideas. And sometimes you just come up with an idea in the room and you throw it around. And like you said, dare to make mistakes. Yeah, throw it out there. Yeah, I have an idea. It might not work, but throw it out there. I really love that vibe. Just to be experimental and try to come up with something new instead of just copying what's already done and what's already made in the past. So that's my best advice. To dare to really do what you feel could be cool or what you feel is interesting. Be true to yourself, what you're good at, and listen to other people's ideas. And hopefully we'll be a good collaboration. You meet somewhere in between. Sometimes, you might not agree on everything, and I might say, oh, I have a great idea, I love this, and they co-write it and say, we're not there yet, let's do another round.
Right. So it takes maybe from 10 minutes to write a song to however long?
Sometimes it takes really an hour, sometimes hours.
Yeah.
depending on the vibe and situation. Some producers work with weeks with tracks, you know. It's like, but the writing process, I believe in the writing, the spontaneous writing process when you start out, you have an idea and get it going.
Right.
Since I come from the jazz background, so I love the improvisational element in it. While some people like to sit for a very, very long time and think about something. You know, it all comes down to the final result. We're all different. And meeting these writers from different countries, some people you know from, you know, before that you usually work with, and some new writers, it's always interesting to see what comes out of it. It's not, sometimes it's great stuff, sometimes it might not really work out, but I love actually the idea of a co-write, the collaboration.
Jim?
Well, I write alone, like you said. But I typically, I can either sit down and write a song right away in an hour, or I write a song over a long period of time, and then sometimes it becomes a dormant song that kind of just sits in the back burner and I forget about it. And it's not until I'm going through my audio notes, or one day it'll just hit me, and then I'll finish it. And it'll be a song that I consider that I've sat on for a really long time.
Right. Okay, and then for both of you, when composing an album, what kind of songs are important to feature? Would you want a wide variety of genres, or would you just want to stick to the same genre, and what order would you typically put them in, if there were different genres?
In Asia, the artists are very versatile. Sometimes they do really heavy dance stuff. Sometimes they do lighter, more romantic, you know, ballads, pop mid-tempo. So the albums always have a lot of variation. So what the labels are trying, I think they're trying to find different colors for the artists to show their different sides and what they're good at, and really connect with the audience in that way. So most of the time, we don't really have we're not fortunate to produce like an entire album for an artist. That happens. I've done one album for SM with Lee Dong-woo, the jazz singer, actually. He's a comedian and a jazz singer. And then we kind of got to do, we had the possibility of doing the entire album with all the songs. But that's very rare. So most of the time you just try to aim at, like, see what you're good at. Maybe we can try to get like a funky groove going and send to this artist. And then the label, they get to, together with the artist, they get to pick the final song.
First I like to find if there's a theme, and then I make a decision whether it's a life album or a love album, because everything kind of subcategories like that. And sometimes it can be a little mix of both. And I usually start with something a little more upbeat and upfront, because a lot of people don't make it past the first minute of the song if they, you know, are giving you a first listen or whatever. So I tend to put the deep cuts at the end. So that's a little trick to, if you're listening to another artist for the first time, is like just go to the end of one of their albums or concepts that they've done and take a listen to their last song. Because that's the one that they a lot of times they kind of hide, but they want to put that in front. But they know it might not gravitate to maybe a commercial listening audience as well. So people tend to hide those in the back.
You talk about genres?
Okay. My genres are, they're not as big as the range as some artists here. But it's pop, rock, folk, and acoustic. It's pretty much can all sit on the same album. I try to go outside of that sometimes, and I usually have friends that are like, it's not you. It's okay.
All right.
Personal.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Now we're going to move on some questions from Twitter. So from TK GREI, they asked, in an ideal world, who would receive more adoration in K-pop, the singers or the songwriters?
I would say, of course, the artists. The fans, you know, they love the artist, they want to see the artist. But it's always great to get recognition and respect when you accomplish something and done a song that people love, you know, or hate, the people. But I think the artists, they're the main, you know, main characters, and we're there to support them and supply great songs to them and work together with them. And so I'm not in this business to get the attention to be the artist, but it's always nice when you meet the artist and they say, oh, thank you so much for this song. That feels great, of course. It's great.
Right.
Artists always kind of have to draw. The songwriter's kind of silent partner, more or less. There was a show in America here called Platinum Hit, and lasted only one season. It was by Jewel, and it was a songwriter show. And I got really excited. I was like, man. And they put them in different scenarios, and they'd ask them to write a song a certain way. And as you notice, it's no longer. Opposed to singing shows, which there's a lot of them, and they keep multiplying around the world. I just think that people just tend to care more about the artist. It's just kind of how it is. Songwriting is a little bit of a dime. But because there's programs now, like Master Writer, not saying anyone will ever use it, but I'm saying that it can structure out songs and just pick lyrics based on random what they give to you.
Technology is taking over the world. Okay, so another Twitter questioner, Angel A17 says, do you have any predictions on possible ways that pop music will evolve to next?
I think the worlds are coming together more and more. Western songs, Asian, Japanese, Korean songs. It's all becoming more of like a mixture. In the past, you could say more, oh, this is a K-pop song. And now the styles are really blending, and I think that's great because that means it's all music. I don't like to talk about genres too much. A good song is a good song. And now when you see the success in America from Korean artists, that also shows that the worlds are coming together, and that's a great thing.
Right.
There's not really much I can say on this, except for I think the open internet or the open net that we have kind of helps people hear things that they would have heard outside their local playlists. And I think they get exposed to other items, and even as generation gaps are created from one generation to the next, someone might use something as a reboot and kind of bring it back and introduce it in a way it was never done before. So I think the only thing that continues to constantly evolve is, like, I'd say, rhythms or overall like production that's just changing.
Right. Woo. Okay, from Fritzy Beirante, they said, pop music in general thrives on repetition. How does production prevent these segments of music from becoming too repetitive? How do you guys tweak these parts so that instead of part A repeating 4 times at different points of the song, it's actually A1, A2, A3, A4, and so on?
I would say in K-pop, there are a lot of different parts in the production most of the time. While in the American Western song, there could be more of one chord progression going through the entire song. That happens within K-pop too, but it's not as common. But if the chord progression stays the same, then it's really important to have variation in the top line. So if you start with a verse, an intense verse melody, then after 8 bars, for instance, it can be a verse hook, something that is a little bit more simple that the listener, the audience can sing along with, and then you go into like a pre-chorus part with maybe longer notes, a little bit more of a romantic flavor, and then you have the main hook, which should be super catchy. And then sometimes, or in many cases, there is also a post hook. That means there's an additional second hook that repeats, and that could be an even more simpler, sparse hook with maybe a dance break or a drop or something like that. But if it's the same chord progression all the way, it's really important to have variation in the production, and it's different sounds. It could go from a track beat into something more intense, 4 on the floor, and really have variation in the melodies. But in a lot of my songs, what I try to do is a different chord changes in different parts of the song too, and sometimes even modulations and stuff like that. Not always.
Well, there's not too much I could say that he didn't just say right there. I'm just gonna put that out there. But I really think that it's so much of it. This is where it comes down to just layering. A lot of change in rhythm. A lot of if you notice the hi-hats changing time is a big thing for building and doing parts different. Changing melody, layering melody. As he said, callbacks.
Great. Okay. Last question for both of you. Copyright. So, as a songwriter, how do you avoid copyright? Do you make sure to listen to as many pop songs as possible, and then you post something like, oh, it's the exact same as something else, I can't do that? Or do you have a team that goes out afterwards and researches?
I don't have a team. That's just me. So, right. I have friends that say, did you hear this? It kind of sounds like you. No. I've noticed with artists that I see that will sound like something else, even if the labels seem to know it does, they kind of ride it out to see how it sells, and then they will kind of come at that money after. Because then there's actual money that they can chase and say, hey, that was such a huge hit, it made $8 million, and then kind of come after it.
I hope I answered your question. Yeah?
And there are 12 notes, so we can only try our very best to be original. I think every songwriter should try to do their own thing and not copy others, but of course you can get influenced, and sometimes intentionally or unintentionally something sounds similar to something else. And but these days I think there's so many, like, even programs like bots on the internet that kind of try to track down, similarities. Yeah, I heard about cases like that. So, but my advice is just try to be as original as you possibly can as a writer.
Fantastic. Okay, so now we're moving on to individual questions for you guys. I'm going to be asking you about your music. So Jim, you first. Making My Lady was a pretty big hit in Korea and featured on South Korean TV and media. Have you heard much Korean music before, and do you have any idea why your song made it big over there versus other US songs?
I had not really heard much K-pop music before. And it just completely caught me off guard. I'm going to try to answer all your questions right here. I know that there was a multiple layer of questions that I'm not going to try to answer here. But it really kind of caught me off guard. I love the idea of music transcending cultures like that. I think it's amazing. I really don't even know how it first was discovered. So if anybody out there ever figures, when you hear my song at some point in time, please give me leads on how this happened, because I don't have a clue how it started. I have like 4 theories, but anyway, sorry.
That's okay. You can give us your 4 theories, and we can move on to the next question.
4 theories. Okay. I did a residency in Singapore, and I know that's a destination location, and they put a huge framed picture of me in the Tab Theater, and I don't know if you've seen it there. Probably the internet's one of the other big theories.
Okay, number 2. Yeah.
Okay. I was just saying 4. I don't know if I necessarily had 4. Probably on torrents. Maybe got put on someone's open internet torrent, and then someone shared it, and then someone downloaded it for free. It was like, wow, I don't know. That's 3. I'm gonna give you 3.
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
I am very familiar with K-drama OSTs, and OSTs have this or most of them have very acoustic, longing, like catchy melody that will repeat over and over and over throughout the entire K-drama. And listening to your song, I was getting this vibe of you really conveying this love through the melody, and I think that style of song just fits in perfectly with like the K-drama main song sound. So that's
Romance.
Yes.
Yeah. If you guys have a second at some point in time, I say you look up these wedding videos that were used for my song. Shayrim used it for her private wedding, and I don't know if that was like someone from her team or something like that, but they used the song, and it kind of blew my mind. So if you guys get the chance, look it up on my website. Not to drop a plug, but I feel like this is the appropriate place. JimWolf.com.
Nice. Okay. And Andreas, so do you write songs however you like, and companies listen to them and choose from your portfolio, or do they reach out to you first, give you a subject and feel like you compose based off the group's past sound?
Yeah, it's very different depending on the location. Sometimes I get emails, we come from this label, we want a song for our artist. Could you send something from your catalog, or can you write something new specifically for this? It's called a lead. And these leads, they like to keep these kind of secrets on the label, because they probably don't want other labels to find out what they're aiming for. Because each label has their own plan with their artists and stuff. So, but you can get several or single requests like this. You can try to write something. Sometimes you just send songs you like that you think this could be the next step for these artists. And sometimes you do camps with publishers or with labels. So I go a lot to South Korea, get invited by labels, and I work together with some of their writers, some of my writers that I bring, and sometimes even with the artists. And a lot of the songs, for instance, the songs I've done with SM artists, a lot of those songs come from writing camps, actually. And the next one coming out is actually coming out tomorrow. It's a song with Shiny called Retro. And I wrote that with two Swedish friends, Simon Petrén and Gustav Karlström, and a great Korean writer called Dees. So that's a camp song from like 1-2 years ago. That's finally coming out, and I'm very excited. I heard a preview and it sounds really good.
Can you give us some hints at what it sounds like?
Not right now, that one.
We'll have to wait till tomorrow.
You can listen to the preview on YouTube, but I play some guitar on it, and it's a funky, retro, slick type of song with a lot of rap and a lot of vocal.
Nice. Okay, Jim, can you tell us about your experience growing up watching your brother's band, Villanova Junction's writing and recording process? You must have had like a great influence on your music career and seeing such great musicians like your brother developing in your parents' basement. It would be great if you could share some of those early memories.
You didn't say John.
Sorry!
So
John Mayer.
I grew up in a little town called Fairfield, Connecticut, and I first discovered music really from seeing my brother and his band practice, and he was in a band with a guy named John Mayer, who you guys all know, probably know, I would think. And they, for years, would record songs on a 4-track, and a Tascam 4-track, every night. They were like religious about it. I mean, they did it all the time. And I kind of, after they kind of moved out of space, I kind of used their 4-track player, watching them do it, and I tried to follow suit this at a young age. But they made it look so easy. Those guys were so good, you know, and I got to practice in the same basement. I think if I didn't have that, I never would have just jumped into music in any way. It was a big on it. And John himself is constantly evolving. He's one of the most focused people, one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in my life. And that really hasn't changed.
Fantastic. Okay, so Andreas, to follow up on your last question, you said that you work with K-pop artists and other composers from Korea. Is there much of a language barrier, and what are some of the favorite composers and K-pop artists that you work with?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, some of the Korean artists, they speak great in English. They're very good at English, like you heard Siwon from Super Junior yesterday. He was hosting the concert, the evening concert. He did great. Sometimes it could be a very tough language barrier when you write with Korean writers who are not that familiar with the English language. But music is a universal language, so once you kind of start with some chord or some idea, and the other person will do something, and somehow it works. It's fascinating how it works. Sometimes, like, how did we get this together, like without even talking basically. And sometimes it's very smooth and easy. It's all different. But I also had the great honor of writing together with some of the big K-pop stars. And for instance, Boa, we wrote some songs together. So she was a really good writer, you know, a lot of ideas, a lot of input. And the song we were talking about also with the Gina, with Onyu, the Starry Nights, that was also that co-write that was very special to me. And I want to highlight some of the Swedish writers that I work with that are really great writers. There are two guys, Caesar and Louis, you know them?
Oh, yes.
They wrote Red Summer and
So LDN Noise? Is that what they're called? Caesar and Louis LDN Noise?
Caesar and Louis is the Swedish production team. And there's a female writer, track maker, top liner called Maria Marcus, that I did a lot of songs together with her. We did Windy Day, Oh My Girl, we did Romance for Shiny, we did One of These Nights for Red Velvet. She's a great writer, I want to mention her. And there are many others. There are some American writers, Korean writers I enjoy working with. A little highlighting on my Swedish writers.
I think it's everything in songwriting. vulnerability is everything. I have friends that, they try to write songs, but the toughest thing for a lot of them is they can't allow themselves to completely let go to express the message they're trying to express. I think that it's everything to authenticity and to people believing what you have to say is being vulnerable. I think it's everything.
Agreed. Even with classical music, it's all about vulnerability. It's all about telling your story. So any type of music, it's all about.
You gotta let it get weird. You gotta say, okay, it's gonna get weird, and just let it get weird.
You're right. Okay, Andreas. So did you have to study past K-pop releases before writing your own K-pop songs? Like did you study the early 2000 songs?
I would say it's very important to know history of all kinds of music. You will have a bigger variety, you got more colors to choose from. But I don't necessarily, if I'm going to write something new, for instance, for Shiny, it's not like I have to listen to the last single and try to copy it. I don't believe in that. I believe in knowing the artist, knowing their sound, knowing what the members are good at, their register, how they rap, how they sing, and then try to come up with something new, or something at least, or recycle something older with a twist. But of course, if you want to write top 40 records from America, you have to listen to the top 40. If you want to make jazz records, you have to listen to the great players of jazz. So it's all, listen to music every day, different genres, try to come up with something, your own take on something, a blend, a mix.
Awesome. Okay, Jim, you seem to be very independent and driven with your music. Have you ever wished or considered writing songs for other artists or collaborating with other musicians? If so, would you be open to be featured in a collaboration with Kpop groups if they wanted to do like an acoustic song?
Absolutely, yes. Just put that out there, yes. I think when I started off, I was a little bit of a purist and kind of a hipster about like, oh, I don't believe in writing songs with other people, weird about it. But I've grown up and I understand that it's all about working with people. It's all about sharing messages and meanings and creating social change even together. I'm all about it. I actually have a collaboration with a South Korean artist that I'm working on right now. Her name is Lisa. You guys know Lisa by any chance?
Not popular Lisa, solo artist Lisa.
Lisa Chong. There's a song I wrote that she's singing on, and later in the year she'll have her parts back to me. We'll see how that goes.
We're very much looking forward to it.
So yes, follow me on social.
I'll tweet about it. Follow my Twitter.
Thank you.
So Andreas, when you're writing for a group with many members, do you think about line distribution between each member?
Yeah, I do. And for instance, if I know that 1, 2, 3 members are rapping, it's good to mix it up and try to have a variation in the top line, melody, rap. Sometimes the more members, the more you can overlap. If it's a solo artist, one line needs to end before the next line starts. But if there are many members, you can actually overlap a lot and do things that go into each other like a patchwork. And I'm very much into vocal arrangements. That's one of my big things what I really like to do. So I love to do big, lush, interesting vocal arrangements. So I like when there are a lot of members because that means I can actually extend the stack. Go a little bit crazy on those vocals. But it's all about the amount of members, I think. If it's a solo artist, you have to think completely differently in how you approach the lines and the melody.
Hey, Jim, so it seems you're primarily an acoustic guitar player, singer-songwriter. Do you also enjoy electric guitar? And maybe you can tell us why you prefer one over the other?
I do. I appreciate electric guitar and I use it a lot in productions. Acoustic is kind of my love. I feel like it's really intimate. There was a time when every song I ever wrote was 4 in the morning and I didn't want to wake everybody up. So I just kind of finger-pick stuff by myself in the night. I feel like acoustic guitar is kind of dying in a lot of production. I want to be one of those people that kind of brings it back into the mainstream. It's always a fight of organic and electronic. Not saying that I don't like either one of them, but I'm here to be part of that universal balance.
Right, okay. So, Andreas. So earlier we were talking about how sometimes you start writing a song with a specific concept in mind, but then the company changes the title or changes the concept. How does this happen? Do you have an example of like a specific song or a title?
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. Sometimes they keep the original, like a lot of the original lyrics. They might change or translate some. They keep the concept. Sometimes they keep the title, but they do a completely different twist on it and write their own lyric. And I would say sometimes they come up with a completely new concept and a new title. So sometimes when the songs are being released, it's like, oh wait, I thought I had a song on this album, and you see the track list, and you're like, oh, which one could it be? And then you kind of find out. That's cool.
Okay. Well,
Or
yeah, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and then we're going to play some of the riffs from the songs we have co-composed, like Go Santo and Monster X's Drama. Okay, so what is your favorite time to share your music? Is it on stage, studio, or for family, loved one?
Well, they're all really great platforms they're all really great to share music. I mean, there's the intimate one-on-one, which is great because you get immediate feedback. There's a crowd, which kind of takes that intimacy up a notch and adds that little bit of stress in there. And then there's listening to a full album. For me, I think listening to a full album is kind of because it's like closest to what is going on in my brain that I'm like trying to express. I think it's like, to me, that's the art kind of in its purest form. Studio album.
Awesome. Okay, one last question for you. Oh, no, actually, there's some more. Has there ever been a time where you wrote something, but it's so personal to you that you don't want to release it?
Yes, it's pretty funny actually. I wrote a song about this girl that I liked in high school, and someone told her about it. Someone I knew that was kind of a friend, I thought, told her about it, and it's the first time I've ever felt so vulnerable. Speaking of vulnerable, we said before, and I was not ready for it. I was ultra embarrassed and felt betrayed. And I learned really fast in that moment that, like, you don't write a song if you don't want anyone to hear it. I mean, for me, that was a key learning situation.
Right. Okay, and one last thing. So far in this panel, we've learned a little bit about, okay, this is how we actually get the notes together. This is how we write the music. Then there's the process where, the singers get the microphones and record it. So I'm curious about the post-production, Jim. You say that you mix and master your own songs. So would you care to explain to our audience what mixing and mastering is and why it comes last, maybe?
Well, everybody has a different perspective on how to do this, right? It's just my crash course, I guess, 101. I like to, I kind of like to stereo record everything, so I stereo pan everything opposite each other and kind of open up the center space. That's the key. So like not have frequencies fighting in the middle. And use a lot of compressors. That's kind of the key. When it comes to mixing, it's all about just making sure every frequency kind of has a space, but the more that you stereo and get things out of the middle, the cleaner it's going to sound. It's going to sound more studio. And I've learned that it's like, a lot of people really push using the best mics in the world and all that stuff. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. There's ways of making it sound good.
Right, so the process is you go into the studio, you sing into a microphone, it goes straight to a computer, and then mixing and mastering is basically just making it sound clean?
Yes.
Okay.
Mixing and mastering is kind of like polishing it up.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the playing guitar part of this panel. First up, oh no, I missed it. Yeah, that was bad.
Mastering is all about the chain. It's all about the mastering chain. Reverbs, compressions, saturations, limiters. That order. My recommendation.
Okay, so Andreas, you co-compose Super Junior's Lo Siento, and it's a very good fusion of K-pop chord progression with a Latin pop music trend. did you meet the Super Junior and the Latin pop composers in person to write this song?
And this song started out at a SM Entertainment Song Camp last summer. I was there together with two great writers. Charlie Taft, you might know her, great singer too, writer, and Obi Klein from Denmark. We were having a song camp, and we've been listening a lot to, of course, Latin songs because Despacito was all over the radio, even in Korea. So we spoke to SM, and they were talking about they would like to do something in that vein. But of course have their own SM, sound SM twist on it, with a little bit more vocals and a little bit more chords than in those reggaeton songs we hear in Latin America and on the radio. So we were actually we were having lunch, I think around noon, around the table. We didn't really start the session, so I just picked up the acoustic guitar and I was talking to Charlie and started playing. I started with this riff. And then we started vibing. She started singing. And then we kind of started with the whole Lo Siento progression. And so on. So then we went into the studio and we wrote it really fast. But then of course we had to work on the production, making it interesting. And then later on, when it was decided that Super Junior, they were going to do it, they also found Leslie Grace, who I got to meet yesterday. Very, very sweet girl, amazing singer, great artist. And then she came in on the song with her writers. They were making it more of a Spanish lyric. So originally it had some Spanish lines, because I speak a little bit of Spanish, I studied it, so it had that Lo Siento, the chorus, most of it, but then the verses had more of an English lyric, and then the Spanish speaking lyricist came in and made it like her second verse. Kenzie came in, a great writer associated with SM. She did a Korean lyric, and then Playing Skills came in and they did the drop, that dance part, because the song was lacking that dance part after the second chorus, the original demo. It didn't have that part, so they took Charlie's voice and they kind of sampled it and did that little melody and they were building a really cool beat around it. So that's kind of how that song came about. And I got to see it live, last night for the first time. I got to go backstage before the show and talk to Leslie and Super Junior, and they did great. I was really happy to see that the impact of that song, fans all over Latin America. It entered Billboard's Latin chart, and it's another example of the worlds blending together, the musical world. Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on to Monsta X's Dramarama. So I'm curious. Oh. Yeah! So how are you able to write a dance-based song featuring such a funky guitar riff?
That funky guitar, to be honest, that one wasn't played by me. It was an existing track that was sent to me and my co-writer Drew from a Korean producer called AD. And it had those funky guitars in there, and what we did actually, we wrote the top line, the melody and the lyrics, and we came up with a rum mama, hey, that hook, So, but the song had an existing track. So that's an example of that I don't always build a track myself. Sometimes I do. I like that, we create the chords, but in this case it was a track that was sent to me, we liked it, me and my co-writer, and we wrote the top line to it.
Cool. Yeah, how does it differ when you're composing the main melody over a chord progression, which is usually 4 notes every beat, and versus a guitar riff? Do you think of the melody differently and resolving in different ways?
Since I'm a guitarist, I kind of love the guitar riff. So many of my songs are based on guitar riffs, and then when we compose, it starts with a guitar riff. Maybe you know this song. Anybody know that song? Falling Over by EXO. But that starts with that kind of, but I actually played it without a pick, so I bet.
Okay, and then I'm gonna have one last question about Red Velvet's One of These Nights. So I'm curious, if you guys don't know, a modulation is basically a song is written in a specific key, it's featuring a different notes, and the modulation is when you change that key. You usually go up a bit to elevate or heighten or bring out certain something like a chorus or something. So I'm wondering, who decided to do all the modulations in One of These Nights? Which one of the composers?
Actually, it was me, Maria, and this Korean composer, Shani Wang. We wrote it together. And when we came to the chorus, we were thinking like, because we built this, it got like some music theory here. For those of you who are interested, it's a key of F major. So it basically starts the verse with these kind of chords. And then there's a little bit of different chords in the pre-chorus, like this very interesting jazz chord of B7, sharp 9, sharp 5. But when the chorus comes, it actually goes, instead of modulating up, it modulates down half the step. So it goes. So we're in this key. It goes to E major, but it starts on the 4th chord of E major, which is A major, 7. So this is difficult, but you might hear it and feel it. But the name, if you don't know the theory or the name of it, it doesn't matter. But for those who do, I just wanted to point out. So we go from. Then we go to this chord. Jazz accordion, G7, +4. So, and this song came about with 3 writers, 2 of us speaking Swedish English, and Johnny who speaks very limited English. So it was interesting musically how such a song could come together. Actually, we didn't have a translator in the session, so we just.
Is there a specific reason why you decided to modulate down instead of up?
No, it was somehow I just heard that melody. It's different and it's weird, but it worked out.
Right, yeah, because in classical music we have like specific rules, like this is the chord that you need to modulate. With pop music, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. So I guess it's often just like playing something that's like, that sounds cool. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move on to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand for the composers. You first? Yeah, oh.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. We just talked about the moulding of different genres within the genre. Obviously, that this genre took many influences from Western music. I don't hear a lot historically of Korean music within K-pop itself. Do you think that as it gets larger, that it will start taking less from Western culture and maybe relooking at its own history within their songs?
Yeah, it's a difficult question because I mean there is a great heritage of the great American soul and R&B in K-pop, Earth, Wind and Fire, MJ, Stevie Wonder, and all that, but somehow adapted a little bit more to Korean because of their language, a little bit more syllables, maybe some.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
But the traditional Korean music is, of course, it would be interesting to hear some of the bands doing a blend of that as well, absolutely.
Sure.
when I listen to the radio in Korea, of course you hear the idol music, but you also hear the singer-songwriter tradition, which is guitar and a voice. And I find that very interesting, that the chords are pretty advanced, you know. In the singer-songwriter tradition we have in Sweden, it's very based on strong melodies, but not that many chords. So I think that the Korean listeners are really open to chords and colors, even in their, you know, from their singer-songwriter tradition, and that's why you can apply it to the idol music, to the K-pop, and it's not too strange for the listener, if that makes sense.
And also, is there any way you could get Robin to do some co-writes on some K-pop songs?
Oh, the Swedish.
Yeah, Robin. Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's amazing. She's done so many great songs. I don't know her personally. I played guitar one time on a bonus track on one of her albums years ago, and I think I met her briefly, but that would be really cool. I mean, she's great. She's always doing interesting things. So fingers crossed for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colton, do you think you could be the mic person? Thank you. Oh, thank you. Lady in the rainbow-ish jacket.
Hi. I'm Stephanie. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I just got into K-pop songwriting last year. And I just would like some specific pointers about writing K-pop versus, and you said like any good song is a good song, but the way I write stuff for myself as a singer-songwriter, I would think would be very different from how I would write a song for the K-pop market. So if you just have like any I don't know, tips or ingredients I could throw in or something.
Yeah. Study some of the songs and how the forms are, like the structure is very important in many of these songs. Like somehow to a foreign listener, they sometimes experience it like, oh wow, this is like 3 different songs in one, 4 different songs in one. So it's important to listen and get familiar with this, that you can actually go pretty crazy, do a pre-chorus that is completely different style, and then you go to a different beat for the chorus. And don't be afraid of being experimental. Instead of being too safe, go for the crazy and try to do the interesting things, because that way you will stand out as a writer. These labels get so many demos and songs sent, especially now with the success of a lot of Korean artists in the US. More writers here are starting to write for this market, and of course want to get in and send to the labels. So the labels get so many songs. So try to find your own identity as a writer. What are you good at? And it's also very important, as you can hear yesterday at the concert, the hooks. Most of the songs have very strong hooks, like repetitive words, things that really basically get stuck in your head after one or listening to it one or a few times. So to study the form, also how the language work with the syllables. Because if there are too few, like not many syllables in a chorus, if it's just one long note, like in some of those Western, power ballads, you won't be able to describe anything with the lyrics in the Korean language. Same goes for the Japanese language. There needs to be more syllables to tell a story.
Okay,
so those are some pointers, yeah.
I have a mic set up. Let's get in a line so we can get to all of you instead of me just pointing at random people. Hi, go ahead.
First off, Umu, shout out to the French horn. This is kind of 2 questions, one for Andreas and Jim, and one sort of for you and Kevin, at least somewhere here.
Kevin, where are you? Did you ditch me?
I think so.
Looks like you ditched me. Okay, I'll just take the question by myself, but go ahead.
So you had mentioned this earlier, but a lot of Eastern music, in this case K-pop, has a lot of interesting chords, like 7th chords, 9ths, 13ths, also with a lot of accidentals, and there's also modulation. Why do you think that that's a lot more frequent in Eastern music as opposed to Western music, where there's a few chords and then maybe in the chorus there's a modulation to a higher or lower key depending on if you want to get brighter or darker? Why do you think there's just such a difference? And then the second question for you is, when you see these types of things appear in Eastern music or music in general, as a classical musician, like, do you kind of take joy in seeing like a lot of like progressive like elements within the music itself? Yeah.
Okay, but they should answer first.
Okay, I can answer first, and then I'll see what I can.
I would say, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, I think it comes down a lot to the singer-songwriter tradition in each country. Because if I'm with a Korean singing-songwriter, they can pick up a guitar, they start singing something. You know, they do the kind of chords they're using. It has those extensions, 7th chords, minor 7, flat 5, you know, altered, and somehow those sounds are already printed in the Korean mind and soul and heart. So I think that's why it comes naturally. For Swedish listeners, I can just speak a bit on behalf of being growing up in Sweden, that our songs were more basic pop songs, simpler chord progressions, but with very strong melodies that comes out of the Swedish folk music tradition. So for us to be able to appreciate more advanced chords, like for instance Dirty Loops, a great band out of Sweden, good friends of mine that I really love their music. Their kind of fan base in Sweden is more of a jazz and fusion crowd, while when they're touring in Asia, you know, in Japan and Korea, they play with bigger crowds because what they're doing is not as strange, I would say. So that's my...
I find American music can be very simplified at times, especially in the commercial mainstream. 3-4 chord songs, just go beyond that. When I write a song, a lot of times I'm like, gotta dumb this down for that market. I actually prefer K-pop market a lot more in some ways. That I feel like they take a lot more risks. They infuse things like hip hop into their songs. I don't know. I find it more exciting at times. I feel like American music can be moody. And I feel like hearing K-pop music, they have no problem being romantic in a song. Like this is a love song, you know. And
thank you guys so much.
yeah.
Right. I wanted to say a little bit more about what I think of, you know, weird music theory, like, you know, crazy chords happening in pop music. Because I was raised listening to soundtracks and orchestra music, you know, classical music. And so I gotten used to the sound. And then once I started going to a music conservatory, and I don't know if you guys know much about Eastman, but they are super strict on their music theory. They just force us through years and years of training and meeting, like so many did. Woo! And so I started to understand now this classical music, and we also actually studied pop music too. And when we were taught about pop music, it's basically the exact opposite of classical music. Like the goal is to be catchy. It is to be repetitive. You're supposed to have this beat that people can dance to. Constant beat that isn't, you know, it won't shake you up. You'll be like, okay, I got this beat. I'm sure for the rest of the song. So when I do hear songs that, you know, adventure out of that, you know, formula, it's amazing because not only is my mind confused because there are specific music theory rules in classical music. So not only am I like, what just happened? But I'm also like, wow, okay, this is different from all the rest. Like, I like pop music in general, but I can't help but be a little bit more interested, a little bit more excited when a song does something completely unexpected. So, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I have sort of a two-part question. As a top liner, how do you go about working with producers and establishing that relationship if you feel your strength is there? And then as a songwriter with the song camps, how do you get involved with that? Like in Korea, song camps.
The first question again, sorry, you were saying as a top liner, how I work with a producer?
Well, so I'm a singer-songwriter, and I feel a lot of my strength is in the top lining. So how do you guys work with your top liners, or how does that come about, that relationship?
It could be either like that I make the track myself with a friend. I don't do the drums, but I build it. And sometimes we just do the entire song ourselves. Sometimes we bring in a voice that we love. Sometimes we just, of course, hire a demo vocalist. Sometimes we bring in that person actually if you think that he or her could contribute to the actual song. Sometimes we send our tracks to somebody else if we want to get a different flavor. Let's say I want to get like a Caesar and Louis flavor on the melodies. You know, I might send them the track to Sweden, but they might send me a track if they want to get my melodies. Sometimes, you know, just with my own camps, I don't really take chances like that. I take chances musically, but not on the people I bring. It's people I'm very close with. Like, I know we're going to have a good time hanging out. But that's a big part of it. When I do co-writes, I only work with people that I know in the room that I like. And we have a great day. We go for lunch, we hang out, make jokes. You know, at least even if the song never comes out, we had a great day. It's a memory of that day. So the social aspect is also important.
Right, so is step one to be assigned to a label, and that's how, like, writing camps?
Yeah, publishers usually, they put together camps pretty often, you know, for different markets. Sometimes labels do too. It's more rare, but it exists in Korea. But usually then labels invite writers that have success with some of their artists because they already, if you've done songs, it's catch-22 as always. It's easier to get hit number 2 when you had hit number 1. Unfortunately, that's how it is, but that's like the reality. But camps are fun. I like it.
Thank you.
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little shorter. So this is a songwriting question because I hate to be the person. I like to write songs, and I always struggle with the curse of the second verse. So I'll get something and it's really strong in the first verse, and it's really catchy in the chorus. Then you get to the second verse, and it's about kind of bringing it back home, tying it back in. What are some of the tips and tricks that you guys use when you get stuck in songwriting, especially on the second verse?
Second verse, I usually like to get more detail. So I take the first concept and I can almost just write something that's like just extremely detailed about a situation, maybe even a particular moment in regards to whatever the overall concept of the first thing was. So it's just a little more intimate detail about like maybe an encounter or something.
This is a very good question because in Korean pop music, most of the time the second verse is completely different. Actually, but in Japanese pop, it could be like the first verse with a little variation. In Western pop these days, sometimes it's the same verse, even lyrically or something. Not always, but sometimes.
That's boring.
But in this case, so the good news is you can come up with a completely new melody. So that within K-pop, and most labels would think that's cool because then the listener already heard the first verse, so it's not too repetitive. It's like come up with something new, and that could be have more rhythmic like intensity.
I'll take that into consideration.
But definitely, like he's saying, when it's developing the concept, and you know, that's a great idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so currently I would say Sentence by Vix is one of my favorite songs. And I saw that you, Andreas, had taken part in writing it or composing it, whatever, so I was wondering what part you played in making that song.
Yeah, that actually, the story behind that, people think it's called a scientist, but it's a sentence actually, it's a made-up word. We had a different title for that song. The original title was different. So, but it had a similar kind of concept. They tweaked it and twisted it. But I got a track from a good friend in Korea, a great track maker called JK. So this kind of it worked out the same way as Dramarama basically. He had a track that he's done with another guy, a co-writer is. He sent it to me and my co-writer Drew. This was like a year ago. And we worked on the top line. So we did the melodies and the lyrics, but the background, the track was an existing one that they created. We sent the files back, he mixed it, and it was pitched to the label. And then after they picked the song, they worked on the lyric in Korean. And it turned out great. They're such great singers. Always a pleasure working with them. Big
Okay, so I want to be able to write songs. However, I'm a bassist. I do not play guitar or piano. I found it kind of hard to come up with. I can play chords on bass, but it's kind of hard because there isn't as much you can do with 4 strings, especially because most of the chords higher up on the neck just sound messy. But as someone who wants to make music, learning guitar or piano something that you should do? And like, what programs would you recommend using?
Well, I think you could pick up chords. With your knowledge of bass, you can pick up guitar chords really easy. And even just starting with bar chords, that'd be really simple for you to, I think, pick up and kind of translate back and forth. As far as programs, I don't have anything to say. I just say you guys are lucky to have YouTube when you're first starting playing. And you pretty much figure out anything you want by searching something. Like if there's a particular style you want, just be specific until you find it, right?
Unfortunately, a lot of songs are based on strong bass lines. Some of the biggest hits of all times, like Thriller, they're based on really strong bass lines. So what you can do, of course, it doesn't hurt to be able to know a little bit of piano guitar, but you can start looking at your bass line and then maybe add one note. I don't know if you know what a major third or a minor third is. You can add one note and do these very basic chord shapes on the bass, and then it sounds almost like a full chord. A lot of the rock pop songs by Max Martin and Dr. Luke, with Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, they have those kind of riffs. Just the bass, the root, and one other note. So I think you will be able to come up with cool stuff with on the bass.
Thank you.
Hi there. Question for Andreas. I'm an Oh My Girl fan, and I noticed you've contributed a lot of songs right from the beginning. I think Hot Summer Night, Roundabout.
Oh My Girl.
Yeah, Oh My Girl. Windy Day, Perfect Day, Magic.
Yeah, it's almost 15 songs.
Love O'Clock. There's so many. You're just a huge contributor. Any comments or stories you can share on working with WM Entertainment and Oh My Girl?
These songs were all made either in Sweden or America, and we pitched it through the label and through the A&R. So unfortunately, I haven't met Oh My Girl yet, but I'm hoping to do that in the future. I really like their interpretations of the songs, and especially Windy Day is a special song for me that I wrote with Maria Marcus, my good Swedish friends, because we went a little bit crazy there with all the different parts. And we were talking about that scale that I call Mixolydian, flat 2, flat 6, or Spanish Phrygian. You call it something else, right?
I call it Egyptian scale or Phrygian natural.
Yeah, it has a Middle Eastern flavor, for that drop. No, they try many different styles. They're an experimental group, great singers, good dancers. I always enjoy their choreography too. I think they've been working really hard on their choreography. Love O'Clock and Magic from the last release is probably two of my favorite songs.
Yeah, I've heard them say on air or on YouTube or something, especially Magic, Love O'Clock. It's among their favorites. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.
Well, I'll be going into college this fall, and I've been constantly thinking about what careers I want to do and all that. I've been curious about how you have started your careers, had the pathway into it.
I kind of started just having a passion for it, because there's a lot of people I don't, having an education in music obviously helps, give you a bigger, deeper understanding. I think just having a passion for it, I think, is the first step. I really do. I think the fact that you're here asking this question right now, you're taking efforts to move and put yourself into the right position and the right opportunity, right? So,
and I was a musician who got a little bit bored with touring and traveling around all the time. So that's how I got into composing and writing, because some of my best friends are writers and composers, and we were just good friends hanging out, but they kind of encouraged me to start writing songs, especially a Swedish guy called Andreas Oberg, who wrote a lot of the big Backstreet Boys and NSYNC songs. And then I basically got something placed. My first placement in Korea was actually with Vicks, a song called Starlight. That actually was like the B-side of the single, and that's the fan club now. The fan club name is Starlight. I wrote that with the lead singer from Dirty Loops, actually, for those of you who know the band Dirty Loops. So, then I realized, oh wow, this is a pretty advanced song, I can really develop the style here and contribute with something that I'm good at and find my own path within all these other great writers. So, go for it.
Thank you so much. Hi.
Hi, I'm in college for musical production, and I want to know where like I should start to like put myself out there. Like, what should I do?
Make as much content as possible. This is a very content-based world we live in now. If you keep putting things out, the more you can build an audience. Like for me, the song that I had that became successful in Korea, it got 8 million plays last year, just streams alone. But in America, I really don't. It just doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So you never know what market could really take off for you. I think that's important. It's just.
Do you know where I should put my music out? Like, do you have any recommendations of where I should experience it?
You mean like box stores, like that kind of thing, like online?
Like online or something?
CJUM has distribution. There's all different outlets. I mean, I would just go to Google and just say online stores. If I could, there's 1RPM, CD Baby. Those are just some of the 2 and 4, but they all have different policies and different deals. Like they'll take different percentages, that kind of stuff. But just keep writing, keep registering your music, sign with the publishing group, or writing the work.
The easiest way to sign with the label, like how would you be able to do that?
That's not a question for me.
Anybody can answer.
No, I mean, publishers, you can send out songs to different publishers, of course. That always works. In Asia, usually, if you can have your own publishing and let them self-publish, that's great, because then you own the rights to the song yourself, actually. And then they just self-publish it and collect for a percentage during a specific amount of time. But going back to your question, I would say, do you want to co-write or do you want to just be an artist?
The end game, I would like to be an artist, but I want to start with people.
Yeah, try to find other people, because you can find online or through your social circles, people to collaborate with that can actually add something to what you already know and what you already do. The key is to find, there are writers who can do everything themselves. Jim is obviously a great example. But I love collaborating myself, and it's all about finding these collaborators that can take what you know to the next level. It's like, so when I go into a room with some of these people I like, I know it will be different from what I do.
It's the comfort level.
Yeah, and I will contribute with something differently to them. So when we go in, it becomes that's out of the unexpected comes out of those meetings. And I'm not a big fan of online co-writes, to be honest. I mean, if somebody sends me a track and I go into the room with somebody, yes, but sitting over Skype, like some people do, I like the human, personally I like that human interaction, but maybe the young generation is just as natural to just do it over FaceTime or Skype. I might be old school, I don't know.
I recommend being friends, making just friends. The industry is so much about being friendly with others and just being open to trying things with others.
Yeah, trying to the politics sometimes is really tough. And I know there are great writers, great musicians who do great songs that never come out, unfortunately, and also do politics, which is a shame. So in a perfect world, it would always be like the best song wins, but in reality, it's not really like that. So that's why it's very important to build up your network and your connections and put yourself out there. Exciting situations.
Okay, thank you, good luck.
Thank you, good luck.
Okay, last 2 questions.
Hi, so Andreas, I know you worked on one of these nights, Red Velvet. That's one of my favorite songs. They're one of my favorite groups. I got my Wendy necklace right here. Just 2 quick questions. One, what would you say is your favorite song, if you had to pick one now that you've written or produced? And then second, your favorite group that you've met in person?
The favorite song, I have a lot of favorites, but One of These Nights is an important song to me because it has a feel. Like I remember that session, and when I listen to it, and the video is, a cool video. It has a mood to it. There's another song I did for EXO called Stronger that I really like, personally. Also, and Shiny songs. I did many songs for Shiny. There's a song for a Japanese release called Wishful Thinking that I personally like a lot. But there's so many, I've done like a couple of 100 songs, so it changes. Sometimes I have a new favorite. But thank you for listening to One of These Nights.
Yeah, and then how about group that you've met in person? Have you had to
Actually, I met a lot of the SM groups because I've been to the SM camps and working with I would say vocally, I like the shiny vocal style with a lot of stacks. I've done like 13 songs for them, and I've done 3 songs for the shiny solo projects, the Feminine and On You. So they're important to me, like musically, you know, the way they sing. And they have a very jazzy feel that suits well, you know, with my style. But there are so many great groups out there, of course. So.
Awesome, thank you.
So earlier you were talking about interpretation of your songs when you send them to the companies. What are some songs like that were interpreted in a way that you didn't think was going to happen, or some songs that you enjoyed the way they were interpreted?
Yeah, for instance, we were talking about A Windy Day. The original demo title was Wishing Well. So it was like I threw my pen in there and wishing well, hoping to find real kind of love. That was a little bit like the concept. But then they turned it into, you know, Windy Day, which works really well with the. I would say in that case the concept was unexpected and very cool, because they, as a label, they think, of course, what fit our artists, what is good for them to sing about, what topics, how can we make this an interesting twist, how can we make the choreography interesting, really important, and how can we make a cool video, you know. So that was a pleasant surprise, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So thank you for coming, guys. We'll be right there to the left if you guys want to take any pictures with us. So thanks for coming.
I have a song coming out September 28th. I just wanted to put that in the head. Called First Kiss.
Thank you so much for having us. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. You guys are great.